everyone, and welcome to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson, the personal finance show focused on moving you forward financially. On today's show, we're going to be talking about how the busiest shopping season is underway right now. And according to polls, Canadians, including many here in Ontario, are prepared to spend to make the holiday merry and bright, even if it means taking on some debt. So before you head out and search for that perfect gift, we have advice on how you can trim costs and avoid the debt so you're not seeing red long after the holidays are over. And joining me for our discussion today is Carolyn Goodwin, CPA Senior Manager of Operations and Social Impact with the Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada. Carolyn, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Before we sort of get into our discussion, can you talk a little bit about yourself and CPA Canada, and especially about your financial literacy program?
Yeah, for sure. As a CPA myself, I'm super excited to be working on the financial literacy portfolio for the social impact department at CPA Canada. Here at CPA Canada, we champion best practices that benefit business and society, and the financial literacy team extends this to the Canadian public by offering financial literacy resources that can be used for all peoples of Canada to expand their financial knowledge. CPA Canada's financial literacy program provides unbiased, objective education to bring awareness to Canadians on the basic concept and skills needed to make smart financial decisions. So through some of our interactive activities, we have free financial literacy sessions that organizations can request. We have a Mastering Money podcast that you can subscribe to. We do free webinars on topics such as debt, inflation, and credit scores. And we have publications that are written specifically to give you tools and resources to help you make better financial decisions no matter what stage of life you're in. So I'm happy to be here to be talking about this today.
Oh, and that's amazing. And maybe we might go into this towards the end, but are all of these resources easily available on maybe your website, or where can we find that information?
Absolutely. Just navigating to cpacanada.ca/financial literacy. We have all of our resources there. You just click on the tile, whether you want to go to your publications or webinars or book a session, and it's all easily accessible there.
Perfect. Thank you very much for sharing that. So we're going to get into our discussion because the countdown to Christmas is on. There's only a few weeks to go. The busiest shopping season is well underway, and surveys show that Canadians are planning to spend this holiday season. The CPA Canada annual holiday spending survey shows consumers are ready to spend on average about $645, which is actually an increase from last year. Now, what's concerning about this particular survey is that 29% of those who responded admit that they will take on debt in order to fund these holiday purchases. And so I know when I hear that, a third of the population is ready to take on debt over the coming Christmas season, it's a little bit concerning for me, especially because we know how so many people are struggling right now with inflation and interest rates and things like that. So, Carolyn, were you surprised when you saw the results of this?
Yeah, I really was. I know there's been a number of surveys that are out there, but ours is been pretty consistent, asking the same type of question year over year. Our holiday spending survey, which you also can go and check out on CPA Canada's website and see past year's survey. And we're seeing this year again that the amount people are going to spend on gifts, that's $645. So our specific question was, how much are you planning to spend on the gifts part of it? Just the gifts is $645, and we know Christmas has a lot more spend than just gifts. So the surprise was that, people are still spending, and as you just mentioned, they're also there's a lot going into debt and going further into debt for this. And, we want people to have a very Merry Christmas. We've, been locked down for so long, and this year especially is probably like one to celebrate, but it's going to come at a cost. So if you're the family member that's doing the majority of purchases, if you haven't already, really sit down and take a look at your financial situation and think about what's realistic for what you should spend this year on gifts.
I know I was surprised when I saw that people were actually planning on spending more than last year, especially with what's been going on and with our finances. And I know that people are struggling. So, and there's also been other surveys that have been done for the holiday season. There was one from the Retail Council of Canada that says Canadians are projected to spend more like $898 this year. Again, an increase from last year from $782. BMO also sent out its holiday spending poll, and this one differs just slightly from the others. And so BMO says that 78% of consumers plan to trim their holiday spending. So about 45% plan to purchase fewer gifts, and about 26% are cutting back on gift giving by reducing the number of people that they actually give gifts to. About 40% are planning to reduce costs by buying less expensive gifts, and about 35% plan to reduce their spending by making fewer, bigger purchases. And while I looked at these statistics, and these are great strategies, and it all sounds positive, there are a few red flags with the BMO survey. So about 37% are not confident that they will be able to afford every item on their shopping list. And the survey also shows that on average, Canadians believe that it will take 3 months to pay back their holiday bills. And so there's a lot of unrest, I think, when it comes to these statistics. Now, the one big concern from the BMO survey was that 51% of Canadians say that just thinking about the holiday season and what's involved is causing them financial anxiety. And that unfortunately that's a tough one, because that's not what the Christmas season is meant to be. And so, Carolyn, when you hear these other statistics, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, these anxieties are coming from money worries. Inflation is also a part of it. You were mentioning that you were surprised that the number went up from last year to this year, but inflation probably also has a big part to play in that. And, we started to see the results of Black Friday and Cyber Monday coming out from what Canadians are spending this year. And some of the strategies that you just mentioned around, buying those smaller gifts. So we saw that cosmetics took a jump. That was one of the things that kind of popped out for me. It's like, you can go and buy like a tube of lipstick and that's going to be your gift this year. And whereas in the past, maybe you would have spent a lot more money to your friends or family for things like that. So I definitely think that people are looking to strategize a little better and saying, hey, I still want to buy a gift, but maybe I'll buy something that's a little less expensive. But my worry is, are they now just buying more of them? Are they just buying many more tubes of cosmetics or whatever it is? So what we did at CPA Canada when we put together our holiday spending survey is we actually put together an infographic, which is also just found on our website if you look at our survey. And here that infographic shows you black and white. If you're not able to pay your holiday bills at the end of the month or when your next statement comes out and you're only paying your minimum payment, it could actually take you 8 years to pay back $645. So if we just sit and think about that for a minute, imagine yourself in 2031, are you still paying for 2023's Christmas? And that's a big worry. So yeah, just really sit down and think about what it is you want to spend and how long do we want to be paying this back? And that should in turn help alleviate some of your stress.
And we're going to get into some really good tips in the second half of the show, and just to sort of help people give some ideas as to some strategies and things like that. It does appear, based on these statistics, that people are really they're trying to make a plan to reduce the spending, but as you say, with inflation being what it is, I think they're still going to be dipping into that credit in order to sort of sustain or move through the holiday season. And then it looks like on average, I mean, people are saying that it'll take them at least 3 months to pay off those expenses that were incurred in December. And so it's pretty clear that the use of credit is going to be coming or maybe increasing over the holiday season. And so what are your thoughts about people maybe planning to dip into that credit for the season?
Yeah, I mean, if you're planning to buy all your Christmas gifts this year on credit, it's about a month away, not quite, 25 days away, actually, from the time of this recording. Maybe sit back and say, you know what? Let's see if we can figure out a strategy where this doesn't have to go on my credit card, or maybe only half of it. You might have a couple more paychecks left before the holidays, and maybe just take a few $100s from that paycheck and say, I'm going to put this aside for the Christmas gifts so that it doesn't go onto my credit card. Because we know that Canadians, there's a lot in debt already. This will just add up to it. And if you're in this situation, probably so are a lot of people in your family. So maybe it's even time to talk about it with each other. And it's the year to bow out.
Well, and that's a good point, because that sort of leads into the next part of our discussion, because there's no doubt that the holiday season does present this pressure to spend, and staying on top of your finances gets even more difficult during the holidays, because everywhere we look, we see the messages of us urging to spend, and there's the Black Friday sales and things like that that we're experiencing. And so in your thoughts, what is it about the holiday season that makes us feel this pressure to spend?
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. I think there's a lot of pent up demand. Oh, I haven't seen this person for 3 years. Oh, I really need to get them something when I go visit them. I can't show up empty handed. They don't want to miss out on all the gatherings. They've been missing out on so many. So this year, it's even harder to say no to some of those invitations that are coming in, because we're trying to maximize it all. And then we throw in inflation. What we were spending pre-COVID is now much, much more expensive, way more expensive in 2023. So I just think this pressure is something that we need to maybe stop and think about and say, if I'm feeling it, maybe my sisters are feeling it, or my brothers are feeling it, or my cousins, or whoever it is that you're meeting up with over the holidays. And maybe it's the time to have that conversation today before you come and meet together and say, hey, let's just be together this year.
I like that advice. I think that's very true. And so before we get into advice for our viewers in the second half of the show about reducing costs, there was one more survey that came out, and this is geared to, especially to those who might be watching who are thinking about splurging a little bit extra this year, especially if it means that they might be taking on some new debt. There was a past survey from Equifax Canada that showed that 20% of Canadians experience debt regret over what they had spent over the holidays. And so when you hear that regret feeling, Carolyn, and how 20% of people were feeling that, are you surprised to hear that kind of a statistic?
Yeah, I mean, not so much surprise, but if I'm with my family and I'm looking around, or my friends, and I'm thinking 20% of you in this room are regretting what you've spent to be here. It makes me feel bad. It makes me feel like I don't want to be with family or friends who maybe feel like they can't afford to be together this year. I just want to be with them. So I think, just looking around and seeing like some people might be having a different situation that you yourself might be in, maybe even having that conversation first and say, hey, you know what? Don't bring me anything. Just bring yourself. Or maybe we will get into some of those tips later, but maybe they do something that's homemade and just bring that for me. Bring me my favorite cookies this year, and I'll be happy with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it's important to have those conversations before the actual holidays happen, so that everyone is on the same page and it's enjoyable for everybody. And so with these surveys, it does look like a lot of people are planning to be a little bit more proactive this year when it comes to spending and maybe stretching those dollars a little bit further. And if you're among those who are watching and they're looking for ways to trim those costs this holiday season, Carolyn's going to have some really good advice for you straight ahead when Money Matters returns.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
These days at your local Legion, we're marching to the beat of a different drum. On a mission to support veterans, to have fun, and to welcome everyone to our ranks. You don't have to be a veteran to join the Legion. And as a member, you'll join thousands of others serving our veterans, our communities, and our country. Oh yeah, and our Member Perks program will save you thousands on shopping, dining, products, and services across the country. Join us at legion.ca.
Welcome back to Money Matters with Shannon Jackson. Joining me today is Carolyn Goodwin, CPA Senior Manager of Operations and Social Impact with the Chartered Professional Accountants of Canada. And today we're talking about holiday spending. And as you heard before the break, polls are indicating that many consumers are ready to spend over the holidays, even if it means taking on some new debt. So I want to switch the focus now to giving some advice for our viewers, especially those who may be feeling anxious or, a little bit stressed out about the added costs associated with the season. And so, Carolyn, this year's CPA Canada holiday spending poll, the release cautions consumers to beware of merriment beyond your means and balancing festive cheer with fiscal responsibility. And these are two really great statements and of course fitting, especially considering the financial strain that so many Canadians are experiencing right now with inflation and high interest rates. So can you elaborate a little bit on these two statements?
Well, I guess my first thing is they're kind of heavy, right? Beware of merriment kind of feels like it just took the punch out of what Christmas is all about and what the holidays are all about. But really, it's a warning. We don't want to get too taken away. We want to try to just drive some awareness of merriment so that we know that there's some costs associated with that, with overspending and debt. So, but we're not saying don't spend too much, just try not to overspend, because that's the cost. And then the follow-up of this is that awareness. So balancing that festive cheer with fiscal responsibility is really trying to get more Canadians to be mindful of their spending and to plan ahead. That old saying, if you don't measure it, you can't really manage it. So leveraging some of our CPA Canada resources that we provide, we have worksheets on our financial literacy page at cpacanada.ca/financial literacy that will help you walk through some scenarios. Like, if I put aside $2.75 a day for an entire year, I've got over $1,000 now in my pocket. $2.75 is really easy to just flitter through, and the flip side of that is, even if I put $20 aside in every day, in a year, I have $7,300. That's a lot of money. That could be a new fridge, a new washer and dryer, your emergency fund, a vacation. It adds up really quickly. And how quickly we spend $20 extra a day, sometimes without even thinking about it. So I think now, just what CPA Canada is saying with this holiday spending survey is, now is a little time to reflect that, yes, we can easily spend, but we could also easily save.
I like that. Those are really good strategies and easy to incorporate into your sort of day-to-day life. So those are really great ideas. So I want to get into some practical advice for our viewers. So how are they going to avoid the holiday debt? How do they ensure that they're not paying for the holidays long after they're over? We know it really comes down to creating that holiday spending budget. Now, the good news is, according to CPA Canada, the majority of Canadians, about 56%, say that they usually set a budget for holiday spending. Now, there was also an RBC post-holiday spending poll from last year saying that about 38% of shoppers went over that budget by an average of about $580. And that's a quite high overspend from the budget. So, Carolyn, do you have any tips that you could share with viewers about creating that holiday budget and how they can keep on track?
Yeah, for sure. Really just treat your holiday purchases with as much planning as any other big financial decisions that you make while you're making this year's holiday budget. And once you've put that budget in place, try to maximize every dollar you spend by seeking out deals on every item on your gift list. There are no shortage of holiday sales. We saw that last week during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. So if you've been watching for certain items that you were thinking, I want to get that this year, hopefully you took advantage of some of those sales and you were able to get a lower ticket price. And maybe your budget that you set, you might actually have some left over to pay down your credit card at the end of the month. And just beware, though, if you do find a saving on what you just purchased, don't take that saving now and overspend on things that you actually didn't need. Use it this year to actually pay down any other expenses that you have and still be able to provide those gifts.
Those are really good ideas. And I think, too, it's important to consider what is everything involved in the holiday season. We often focus on it's about the gifts that we need to purchase for everybody, but I think it's important too to look at, are you traveling somewhere? Are you spending gas to get to a destination? Are you hosting the Christmas dinner like I am this year? And are you, spending a little bit more on groceries and food? And so I think it's important to take all of that into consideration when we're looking at that holiday budget as we move forward. And like you said before about putting aside money every day, if you can plan for it towards, right at the beginning of the year, put it in your plan. And then by the time Christmas comes along, the stress is gone because the cash is there. You're ready to go. You've already made those preparations. Now, do you have any thoughts or ideas about how people can sort of cut back on the actual gift giving part of the holidays?
Absolutely. I mean, this year, even in my family, I have a lot of brothers and sisters and nieces and nephews. And this year, one of my sisters just texted us and said, hey, we sometimes give gifts to each other. Let's just pick names this year. So instead of buying, 5, 6, I mean, I have 5 sisters, 5 or 6 gifts, I only need to buy one. And then this year we included some spouses. And then, I had another sister call me and say, I know we're not really supposed to share who we got for Christmas, but I got your husband. What do I get him? And I said, honestly, call mom, get her date and nut recipe cookies and make him a huge batch of cookies. He will be the happiest guy on Christmas Day. I can tell you that sort of love and affection that you can show one another through something that's homemade. It to me, that's what's priceless. I mean, for the kids, might not be so easy. I heard something somewhere where somebody said, I gave Santa the shopping list instead of the Christmas list. It was going to wrap like food under the tree. I don't think kids would appreciate that. But again, even with the children, there's a number of nieces and nephews. And this year we drew names. So instead of everyone getting these copious amounts of gifts that they may or may not even remember, they're going to get one big gift from each other, and they're really going to have a lot of fun going out to purchase that one gift. So I think we can come up with some strategies.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot of good DIY kind of ideas that you can find out there. Anything homemade, or there's also maybe the idea that you can give your time to somebody. And so maybe you have a family member who has young kids, and maybe you give them a written coupon that says, I will babysit for, one night in a month in order for the parents to have a date night or something like that. And so I think there's a lot of different ways that you can strategize in order to sort of reduce those costs. And I agree about the drawing of names. We do that as well in my family, at least for the adults. So that, again, it reduces, you've got something to open, but really that's not the focus of the holiday. So I think those are really good ideas. And now you talked about, or we did talk about in the previous segment about that sort of fear of missing out over the holiday season and the pressure that it comes to spending over this time of year. And of course, then we've got holiday invitations to go out, dinners and other celebrations as well, which also maybe adds to the costs. So, Carolyn, are there ways that we can sort of prioritize these celebrations that we are invited to?
Yeah, I mean, I've even heard some people say in my circle, we're going to divide and conquer. I'm going to go to so-and-so's party, or I'm going to go to my work Christmas party and you can go to yours, but maybe we won't go together. And that way it's just one of you going and it's maybe one expense instead of two. The other thing is some of my friends, they're going to come over for drinks at our house first before we go out for dinner. I know like a glass of wine, I feel like it's gone from like $9 to $14 just like overnight. And that's a lot of money when that starts adding up if you're going out for dinner on a frequent basis. So I think just coming up with a few ideas that can kind of help save you some money. And then if you extrapolate that to the number of people in the room, before you know it, you've probably saved the whole group $100 or $200, and they will thank you for that later.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And there's also maybe if your family is sort of a long distance away, then maybe there comes to an agreement where you meet online and you do a Zoom call or something like that to maybe try to reduce those expenses of travel as well. And now speaking sort of on the digital side, we're getting all of these social media posts and, neighbors are putting up their decorations and showing pictures of all the gifts that they're purchasing and things like that. Do you have any advice on how we can maybe ignore those sort of social influences that sort of want us or make us want to spend a little bit more?
I mean, when I think about everything on social media, it's really just fantasy, right? What you see in the pictures is just a snapshot of time, and it doesn't necessarily show the whole piece. Yeah, there might be those neighbors that have beautiful lights, and you're not going to be able to keep up with that. The expense of going out to purchase everything and then having to light everything and maybe having to buy a ladder and all those different things. Between me and my daughter and my son, they have their own house. I've just given them all my Christmas decorations. Said, let's just decorate your house this year. Let's combine everything. We'll do Christmas at your house. And I think we were even talking earlier about potluck. You know, if you're hosting this year, turn it into a potluck so that you're not burdened with that entire bill. Food inflation. It's been amazing this past year, in a bad way, not in a good way. And it's very expensive now to host an entire dinner. So maybe offer, if you're the one that's not hosting this year, offer your host, say, hey, can I bring the grilled vegetables, or can I bring the dessert? Whereas maybe in the past, they would take care of everything. I think sharing it, everybody will appreciate that.
And as we sort of close out our segment here just a little bit, we know, I mean, Christmas is just a couple weeks away, and viewers may already be in the position where they're struggling with the debt that they've already incurred. Do you have any advice for those who may have already exceeded that holiday budget and how they might be able to manage it come January?
Yeah, like even what we said earlier, like $2.75 a day adds up to $1,000 in a year. And you mentioned earlier that people are going to spend about 3 months paying off their Christmas debt. You know what? Just start putting that money aside today. And in 3 months from now, 90 days, 100 days out, you're already going to have a nice chunk of money to put towards that debt repayment on your credit card, and then start planning for next year. You want to be able to go out and have fun this year. But I think if you go out, maybe you've overspent, but you have a plan in place, you won't feel so bad in January. And again, going to CPA Canada's website, we have a lot of resources. We know that financial literacy is not a one and done. It's a slow drip. It's a little bit of information as you need it in different stages of your life. So take advantage of some of that financial literacy and help yourself, your future self, become more educated so that you're making the right decisions.
I really appreciate all the advice that you've given us today. And so for our viewers that maybe want to reach out to you, learn more about the CPA Holiday Spending Survey and all the resources that you have, I know you've mentioned the website a few times, but could you just let us know how we can get in touch with you?
Yeah, financial literacy at cpacanada.ca is our email address, and our same with our website, cpacanada.ca/financial literacy. There's lots of places to connect with us. You can book, if you're a librarian or a teacher in a school, you can even book a session, and we'll coordinate with a CPA to come out to your organization. We have 50 different topics that we provide sessions for. Reach out to us, book one for the new year, and start educating yourself, your friends, and your families for a better future.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Carolyn, for being here and giving your advice. And I think it's important to remember that this year is really about the experiences that you have with those who matter most in your life, because it's not what's under the Christmas tree that matters, it's who's around it. And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. I'd also like to wish you and yours the very best this holiday season. From all of us here at Money Matters with Shannon Jackson, we will see you all in the new year.